Hi, I'm Gallup, the co-founder and CEO of Polytomic. Today, we are lucky to have Uttam, the CEO and co-founder of Brainforge, with us, where I'll be chatting with him about Brainforge and about his choice of Polytomic for his client engagements. Uttam, pleasure to have you here. Let's begin with an introduction to you.
I'm the CEO of Brainforge. It's a company I started about a year and a half ago. My background is in data engineering and computer engineering.
Mm,
I worked in New York as a data engineer, both just as an individual on a team, and then got an opportunity to lead teams, lead customer facing analytics, and lead product at a data transformation startup. I'm not a consultant by trade. My background is in engineering. However, I've learned over time how important it is to make great infrastructure decisions, make great people decisions, and how to actually allow a company to become more data driven. And so, one of the things that brought me into the consulting world was the fact that I don't think many companies are equipped to make those decisions themselves. And only a few companies have the luxury of being able to hire folks like me into those companies. And so, starting an engineering firm, as like I like to describe it, to be able to help those companies was really, really important. And part of this is also scaling the knowledge that I've learned after making a mistake for a number of years, but also bringing world class talent to firms that may not have a technical organization, may not be currently moving as fast as a technical organization should. And so yeah, I mean, I didn't really like have any interest in becoming a consultant in my career. I like to describe us as like an engineering firm. I compare us less to Accenture and McKinsey and more to like Ogilvy and like these, creative firms, in that we really have like a holistic approach to meeting clients, and we do everything from joining meetings, running teams, but also the nitty gritty engineering work. And so we're not like staff augmentation. We don't throw 100 people at problems. We come in and really try to run into the fire for folks, but give you both the high level of how you should structure a data organization, all the way down to like pushing DBT code.
that's interesting. What's your typical clients then you engage with, and what brings them to you?
Yeah, so our typical clients are folks that have found some product market fit, are growing fast, and are ambitious. They realize that data is important to them getting to their next set of goals, and they may or may not be already using data to do so. So we have a lot of customers that have run their business on gut instinct for a long time, and that may still work, but as any great leader knows, being able to scale yourself and scale your decision making framework across your team is really important. So we typically find customers in one or two areas. One, they've yet to hire their first data person. That is probably a role that is split up across a bunch of people. They maybe have an operations person that's doing some data work, or the CEO is doing some data work. And so they're about to hire like a data analyst. But what they're probably not going to realize immediately, if they haven't hired for this role before, is there are some multitude of things to do in the job of data. There's data engineering, there's analytics engineering, there's data analyst work, there's insights and strategic work, decision making. And so you may hire that one person and they typically get jammed because there has to do all of those things. They're maybe only empowered to do one of them. The second time is we find people when they've already hired a team. Maybe they have a couple people and they have not yet seen the ROI, or the ROI is not coming at the pace at which they expect. So these are, typically medium to large size, private businesses. Luckily, we have a background with startups, so we bring the startup pace without like a lot of the drama, and the fact that like we do things in a month's time and what would take a lot of consultancies, I think 3 to 6 months, decks, planning. However, it's not done in like a shoddy way. And it's part of the reason we're talking, that we take the decisions of what tools we bring to the table very seriously. And so I think for us, I like that we bring that to clients where if they've worked with a data team, I think they quickly realize how fast we work and why it's valuable. I think if they haven't worked with a data team, then hopefully they're just spoiled and they get
Mm.
to get the best of the best. And what you'll learn in data is that making these decisions on vendors, on team, how to structure priorities, like really sets the stage. So a lot of our companies tend to bring on data folks after us or while we're working. They
Mm.
make their first data hire, and we don't gatekeep at all. So we bring that person into our world. We share all the tools and learnings that we have. So we've had some great successes with some firms, even our short time being around.
For those out there contemplating, hiring a data team or potentially even engaging with you, what are typical tasks you come in and fulfill for them? Just to sort of crystallize it a bit into something specific.
Yeah, so I like to think about it. It's like if your problems sound like I have a bunch of tools and I have too many dashboards, all of our data scattered across a bunch of tools, and we need to centralize logic somewhere. My definitions of customers and sales are determined in multiple different places, and I can't get any consistency. My data takes too long to refresh. If those are things that you're like thinking or saying or people that's like, you have to make some decision with your data team. I think that's where we come in and
Which may not exist, right?
yeah,
That's in here.
which may not exist, right? So that's where you either have two choices. You buy or you build. Some companies that have the luxury of huge hiring budgets and can bring on really sophisticated data folks that are very expensive. You have to hire them full time. The all-in cost is expensive, especially hiring here in the States. These people may have only done it once or twice. It's like quite a risky hire. You may want to bring on a consultant, but there's also a difference between bringing on like a freelancer versus bringing on like a consulting firm. There's also a difference between bringing on a consulting firm like our size versus like calling Palantir or calling Accenture, right? And so I like that we play in this middle ground. It forces us to do everything. Like we have a wide menu of things that we do, but it is focused on data or AI. And so I would say like if your challenges are you have like bunch of data and spreadsheets that you're updating manually, you're copying something, exporting it, putting it somewhere. You're not able to answer second tier questions, which is like my sales went up. Why? Okay, then you found okay, well we saw this channel grow, but why did that channel grow? You're not able to get deeper and you're not able to do that on any timeline that matters, meaning maybe that's taking 2 weeks, 3 weeks for someone to get back the answer with you. Their answer constitutes it's constituted of like several spreadsheets, and you're like, they're also like, I don't really know. I sort of threw something together. Those are all like symptoms
Yeah,
of this problem, right?
all
Yeah.
makes sense. Now, you picked Polytomic as your ETL platform when engaging with clients. Well, there's a few out there. Why Polytomic?
Yeah. So I would say it's sort of a longer journey in that, we've been implementing in my career. I won't say subjected, but like I've implemented a lot of tools. I've been on the implementation team and the usage team for a lot of tools. So when I have the luxury of being consultant, I see it as a great opportunity to find what's the best of
Mm,
the best in the market. And so we spend a lot of time every week talking to new vendors across the entire stack, whether it's new data warehousing tools, new ETL tools, new BI tools, because for me, I want us to go to our clients and have a menu of options based on their budget, their urgency, who's going to use it for them to pick from. So Polytomic was on our radar, and it's the best when I get put in touch with a vendor from a happy customer. So we got put in touch together from mutual friend, and but that we had sort of just talked at that point, and there wasn't exactly a right fit, and then we actually circled back about a year later or so, and found a right fit for a client that we were working on, but of course, I know that I can bring a challenge to you guys and you will help me qualify whether it's something you can take on. And when I go to a customer, I tell them, like, look, there's a bunch of people that do this job. But number one is you want someone who's making sure they're keeping the lights on a critical piece of infrastructure, but also that they're not the star of the show. Meaning, this is just data movement into a place. It is very, very important, but it is one part of the
mm,
pipeline, right? And ultimately, if you're a data person, you may be proud of your infrastructure, but if your business team is not empowered by an analysis or a dashboard, then it's a sort of all for none. And so I want to partner with vendors that know their place in the
yep.
stack and as part of that story, because we tell the whole story. We don't come in and just do this. This is one thing in a series of events that needs to go right for us to enable the last mile of
And the
analysis and
value is
precision
in the
engineering.
last mile, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
all of the value is in the last mile, but to enable that is generated like
Yep.
all the way from picking the right, like making sure you just have like something with an API on it.
Yep.
You're not using something from the Stone Age. Then we pick a right tool to move it. Then we transform it. Then it's visualized. Then you have the team or a team like us to gather those insights. And then you have a leadership team that's receptive to making a decision. All of those things have to happen. Otherwise, it's sort of a waste. And so we've fortunately done this so many times that we've made the mistake of getting to one part of that stage and then
Mm,
falling flat where
mm.
unless we get to the point where the stakeholder is making a decision based on the data that they trust, um, the whole thing is useless.
It's funny. I feel like so many data people, without realizing this, mess this up. Where they just focus on a lot of the earlier stuff, not realizing that, hang on, there's someone paying money for this that needs to make a decision. And unless you get to that point, none of this other stuff matters.
And that's I feel like how I started my career. Nobody sort of gave me the through
Yeah.
line very
It's the
well.
same with me when I was working in data in past lives. I think same thing, right?
Yeah, you're
Just feel
just
like,
asked to make a dashboard,
yep,
and then you make the dashboard. Whether you still like, you're like, you read see the numbers, you're like, yo, who's anyone taking the numbers are not that great. And then you started asking questions if you're a reasonable data person, you start asking like, hey, are you actually is this line chart the best representative of your question? They're like, oh, but I just want a line chart. And then you start getting into that world, and that's what I think true data people are. But the one thing that I tell our clients is this isn't just one person cannot come do all that, right? You need people who have a specialty in each of those roles, from insights to analysis to modeling to then bringing in data. And those people have some mixture of Venn diagrams so that they can pass the ball. But this is not a one person can do everything unless you're like, you don't have any data or you have small amount of
Mm.
data.
Yep.
So it matters that you have all that, but it matters that you get to the last mile. Nothing matters unless the CEO or the stakeholder sees that and is able to say, wow, I got it. I'm now going to change my time in this way.
Hmm.
Otherwise, I don't know. Just because you have the most perfect pipelines and stuff, it's an optimization that should be reserved for like the people with not
Yep.
more pressing issues, like the big Fortune 100, stuff
Yep.
like that.
Totally makes sense. And we even joke internally, if Polytomic's ever the star of the show, it means things are going wrong.
Yeah.
We should be like the cables in the walls when you turn on the
Yeah.
lights, right? It's just
Yeah.
visible so people can get going with the other work
Exactly.
they need to do. Cook a meal,
Yeah.
enjoy time with their family, whatever it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
All this makes sense then. As far as, again, in the pool of other vendors and so on, what surprised you about using Polytomic and the sort of the customer relationship?
I mean, for me, this is when we go to a client that's never purchased this tool, or they were not part of the procurement process of the tool that they currently have, which commonly is something legacy. They're always starting off on like a back foot of thinking about it as like cost number one, right? But when you're fully optimized for cost, you lose the understanding of what is support going to look like, what is support going to look like for new connectors, what is support going to look like for changing existing connectors, and is a vendor going to take advantage of things in AI, things, new development paradigms, and pass on the benefit to their clients. So those are all things that I try to, just like when you tell an employee that like your salary is not the only thing as part of his total rewards. That's something when you pick a vendor. Some people don't have the budget to maybe make a decision, but I try to put it all out there, meaning what we get from you is amazing support. I know that, you guys do a great job of doing proof of concepts, even without a guarantee of that client moving forward. And I will say oftentimes that is a reason why they move forward. They've never gotten that from another vendor. And you guys aren't afraid of like tricky problems with legacy systems, right? And so that's what I tell clients. And I told them very upfront about the other players in the space. I give a very unbiased view of who else exists and why they have market share. If people are exist and or have customers, there's a reason why,
Hmm.
right? And so this maybe they were good at one point, and why do they still
Hmm.
exist? So for me as a consultant, I put the options out there, and we tried again, like even for our business these days, we try to be very unbiased. In fact, we get referral money from the vendors we play, and I was very adamant about trying to pass that back.
Mm.
I would rather you offer that as a Brainforge exclusive discount,
Mm.
right? And then I can sort of say there is a benefit to going very cheap. If you don't have the money, you sort of are locked to some options,
Mhm.
right? But if you do have some budget, and if you're growing, and this is why we want to partner with growing companies where investing in these things are important,
Mhm.
right? So they don't have to every 6 months decide on a new ETL tool.
Mhm.
The last piece is I want to make a decision for when eventually we may not be part of our client's journey, that their data team is happy with the decisions
Mm.
we made, right? Like we've went into clients where as soon as they hired someone, they were like very thankful that we brought on this set of tools. It will make your recruiting process way easier when you tell them that you're working with a set of tools versus there are some nightmare tools that like if you'd be surprised how opinionated some of the engineers are. They
Mm.
will they will mark your workplace as like less because of those decisions.
That's interesting with the data tooling. It's a rare person, I think, who thinks of longevity, right? Usually people are buying stuff to solve today's
These are
problem.
3, 4, 5 year. These are long time decisions. Like if your business is planning on selling and using that data, like these are at least like 2 to 5 year decisions you're making.
Now, talking about the future, what does Brainforge look like in the future?
Yeah. So we started the business just completely alone, and so our initial goal, as soon as we were able to validate that this was a need in the market, was to just begin to grow. But consultancies commonly compete on headcount and sort of grow, and there's sort of two ways. You either go very hoity-toity, you just take on like strategic deck work, or you do like staff augmentation, sort of bid for the bottom. We've always sort of played in the middle where there's people that need us, but maybe it's their first time hiring data folks, and so there's a challenge for a consultant like us to explain the value and how expensive it is. We've also competed at the high end where we're competing with established businesses with 100 plus people with long backgrounds in doing this. And we compete on our candidness, our execution speed, and doing more showing than telling. So for us, one, I think at the end of our journey, Brainforge as a brand, meaning we connect extremely smart people to extremely smart problems. Like, I don't think there is, I mean, there is some IP in the way we execute and our culture, but ultimately, like, if without ego, I think a lot about that. So there is a lot to build right now and building, making sure that we are trusted in the space. The other thing is I take a lot of inspiration from companies like yours where you lean on support, you lean on being very upfront, and you just do more, in the beginning versus like having a really tight sales process and being like, we don't touch anything until papers are signed. I've never been like that. And so we try to do as much in a non-transactional way as possible. The other thing is like we just try to find amazing people. I study a lot about like, companies like Chick-fil-A all the way to companies like just like the highest end restaurants where the way they treat their employees is the way that the clients get treated. And I work in client service, meaning compared to engineering, where maybe in my engineering world is 80% engineering work, this is 50% minimum communication work. So we now bias very highly towards technical, talented people that can explain problems versus just who can solve the issue. Because just solving the problem doesn't keep the lights on.
Neither does just talking about it, right?
Yes.
You need both. Yeah.
So we have the unique challenge of doing both and doing it across 10, 20 companies in parallel. But for that also, we then take every single learning and we bring it to the next company. So ideally they get a faster, better product, and I think we've grown this business from like, again, just 0 folks, a year and a half ago. We have about 15 folks now. We're fully distributed. So for me, I think we've gotten very lucky on some amazing hires, and then we bring all that talent to our clients. So I think we're just going to continue to grow. We want to go after tougher problems, and we want to do that with better partnerships with vendors, better partnerships with other agencies, and just do this in a way that benefits all of our clients. So luckily for us, we have one cohesive vision, which is give clients a better service. So I don't sit and think about turning this into a productized service. I don't sit and think about, oh, we built some internal tool, let's go chase a product. We wake up every day and all of our optimizations and all of our decision making go to delivering a better service. And there's multiple facets of that. But I know if we can continue to do that and then continue to share outwardly that's our mission, like that's where we sort of wake up, and we hope that the clients that engage with us and trust us, the story kind of speaks for itself. So.
Great. A fine note to end on. Well, thanks, Tom, for joining us on this.
Yeah.
Great to see you.
Yeah. Thank you.